Route 616, your home for all things Marvel main continuity. Hello, everybody. This is RJ, otherwise known as RJ Epic One here, and we have another episode of Route 616 ahead of us. And I'm here with Bill and the cranky one, Dan.
Hey,
we got Dan back because we're covering Spider-Man. It wouldn't be the same without his disappointment about that fact.
you couldn't just do it while I wasn't here, could you?
Why would we do that?
We tried, but somehow it didn't seem as fun.
Pray for me, people. Pray for me.
Dan's had a long day, so we're going to make it longer as we're here to record some Route 616. So this week's lineup is an interesting one, to say the least. We're going to start off today with some Journey in the Mystery 95.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then we're going to go to Tales to Astonish number 46.
I continue to be sorry.
Tales to Suspense number 44.
And I'm sorry again. Those three are terrible.
If you haven't picked up the first half of this episode, the stories aren't very good. Then our second half improves, starting with Fantastic Four number 18, as we're introduced to the Super Scroll, so that's cool. We have some more introductions in Amazing Spider-Man number 4 as we meet the fucking Sandman. Let's go. And then X-Men number 1, the debut of the X-Men is here, finally. And it's going to end our episode today. So, very fun time. Let's hop right into it with Journey in the Mystery number 95. And I'm going to take this one. Probably going to regret this, but here we go. This story is called The Demon Duplicators. Probably should have been the first sign this wasn't going to be good.
Here's sign number 2. It's written by Robert Bernstein.
There we go. Stan Lee with Robert Bernstein on writing duties. Joe Sano's on art, which... Okay.
One sign number 3.
Yeah, one sign number 3. Cover arts by Dick Ayers and Jack Kirby. Not a very good cover either, so there we go. And
no,
then
it's really not.
Letters by... This has just got everything going against it, huh? Letters by Sam Rosen.
At least it's lettered by Sam Rosen. We got something good here.
That's the one good thing going.
When you have to go to the letterer for something good, you got problems.
Yeah, that's not good. We got a release date of June 1963 for this one. This will be a 13-page story, but it will feel longer, possibly. And... I'm going to bury the fuck out of this story. And
I found it passed fairly quickly. That's probably the only reason I didn't hate it as much as the other two.
So, full transparency, I attempted to reread this earlier today, which I don't normally do for the podcast. I normally don't reread. But I did attempt this earlier today, and the first half of this issue went very fast. Keep in mind, I only made it through half the issue. I got to page 7, and then was like, fuck this, and then skimmed through the rest of the issue.
They tapped out halfway through.
So...
And that was the good half.
And I literally, that was...
That's... You... I can't believe this. You tapped out halfway through the story.
Yes.
A 13-page story, yes.
Oh, my God.
A 13-page, fast-reading story, and they tapped out, and I don't blame them.
Oh, my God.
It's that good. I've read it before. I've read it, but, this is me rereading it, trying to get in the zone for today.
I remember the first time you read it, it took you, 3 days.
It took me 3 different sessions throughout a long night. It took me 2 or 3 hours, I think, across, 3 different sessions. It was hard. I did not enjoy this, so... the Mighty Thor faces the menace of the Demon Duplicator as we open up with a tease of what's to come with a duplicate of Thor with 2 hammers, and Thor says he also has twice the strength. Fuck. So we open up with Thor in Asgard talking to Odin, and Odin's like, "Wow, it's a drought. Can you please help?" And Thor quickly fucking creates a thunderstorm and says he'll be back in 7 days to stop the rain and everything. So, yay, help
This
Thor.
is completely irrelevant. It's only in there to pad pages.
It is. This is very desperate. We then go to a convention. We meet Professor Saxton, who is there to introduce to the audience a new android that Dr. Donald Blake created. And before we quickly skim through this part, we have Thor, who thinks to himself, it's about Donald Blake. He's like, how could he be here when I secretly am Blake himself? Thank you. So essentially, things go wrong. I'm skipping through some pages here. Things go wrong. The android Saxon, not fully known to Thor from the start, but Saxon fucks with something on the controller, the remote control for the android, and it makes the android start to like get ready to self-destruct essentially, and Thor has a year and a half to get rid of the android and throw him into the air before he explodes.
You need to explain better how he gets rid of the android, because this is some top-tier bullshit. He rips panels out of the floor.
Yes.
And straps the android to his hammer, and then throws the android into the sky where it explodes, and then his hammer flies back to him.
Yes, the android, he uses the Thor panels, wraps them around the android. By the way, the android is green and looks like radioactive, man.
What,
and
there's a villain that's
hammer.
green?
Who
I
would
don't
have thought?
think the android really counts as a villain.
He's not
It mostly
really a
just
villain.
stands there and then explodes.
The android's literally talking to Thor as he's getting ready to explode and doesn't want to explode, and it's like trying to, like, he's not doing anything physically to help not explode these people, but he doesn't want to explode these people. It's very painful.
And not painful in, this is a tragic, sad moment. Painful as in, I had to read this.
Painful as I went to read this twice and couldn't make it through.
We're to the point you tapped.
Are we at page 7 already? Look at that.
We hit page 7.
Yeah, I think it's about halfway through this page. I said, fuck this. Let's see if I can pinpoint the time. So Donald Blake enters his office and finds Professor Saxon waiting for him. And Saxon immediately, he's looking for Jane. Jane's not there. Who cares? We have Saxon immediately goes into showing Donald Blake his duplicating machine, and he shows how I can duplicate anything. Presto, he's created a copy of a chair. Holy shit. So he can create carbon copies, as he calls them, by pressing a single button. And Saxon is here to get Donald Blake's help. And I think the panel that I specifically quit on is the one here with the evil-looking Saxon almost looking directly at us as Donald Blake standing behind him with his one hand in the air and one hand on the cane there.
I felt like that was probably where you tapped.
Where Saxon is just like, nonsense, your android was a mechanical miracle. Because Don Blake mentions how he specializes in the human body. So
Which is why he was making robots.
Yeah. So Saxon's like, whether you like it or not, you're gonna fucking help me, bitch. And Donald Blake's like,
don't stop. For God's sakes, don't stop. Just get through it.
Donald Blake's like, no.
No.
Yeah.
So blah blah blah. Saxon shows off his gun more. He starts duplicating cats, which that's actually pretty cool. I
Turns
love
out he
cats.
duplicated Jane. That's why Blake agrees to help him. Or he
Works
stole
for
Jane.
me.
He kidnapped Jane. Sorry, not duplicated.
Yeah,
This
he kidnapped.
This issue is killing my brain, and I'm not even the one reading it right now.
Speaking of duplicating, which when we get to page 9 is finally when Thor is duplicated. Good thing the story isn't 2/3 over.
You missed
actually
something
3/4.
important that's never
Did I?
that's never really expanded on to the level it should be. He fucking figures out that Blake is Thor, because Blake's alone in a room while Saxon's duplicating cats. And he's like, haha, I'll turn into Thor and no one will know. And Saxon turns around and is like, wait, Don Blake was the only person in that room. You're Don Blake. Sadly, this is one of the best parts of this comic.
Apparently somebody had a line that said, if Saxon said forget Miss Foster at one point. I'm just looking at my notes now because I'm like, fuck it. Which I said is kind of what it seems like this title has done. And there was an equation earlier when they were at the convention that the android somehow solved that Black knew.
The most impossible creation of all time, and the android could solve it because Blake made it so smart.
But how would they actually know that the android solved it but who cares?
That's a good point.
I never even thought of that because I had just glossed over how stupid that was when I was reading it.
This is where...
You're making me hate this story more.
This is where you and I differ, because sometimes I really fucking focus in on the stupid bullshit that happens in these issues, and I'll notice the little shit like this where it's like there's a fucking android solving a goddamn equation and they say he solved it, but how would they know if they never? He said he spent 10 years trying to solve the fucking equation. How would he fucking know that it was solved? But anyway,
Trust me on this, RJ. Don't ever tackle the golden age.
but but anyway,
If this is annoying you, you will not survive the golden age.
page 9 sees Thor finally duplicated. And
Why is it when they run out of ideas, the good guy always ends up fighting himself? It's so annoying.
Oh, I even had a note about the secret identity thing that Bill brought up. I was like, really? Sexton's the first human to learn the secret identity? So that's nice. Fucking hell. Some of these secret identities are fucking ruined by the people who learn them first. Fucking Iron Man had a lame one, too.
Come on, get on with the story, Ryan. We'll be here all night
This
on
is
this
painful.
one thing.
The fucking Duplicate 4 battles Thor. Thor's losing. Who would have thought?
Duplicate Thor kicks Thor's ass, which makes no sense when we hit the resolution of this story.
Yeah, there's a part where
A page later.
Yeah, there's a part where Thor fucking uses the Uru and the fucking hammers as an electrical current to shock the Duplicate. And oh my god.
I do like, and by like I mean think is especially stupid, the part where Thor tries to chase the Duplicate. So Zaxton duplicates a fucking building in front of him and he runs into it and knocks himself out.
Oh my god. How does this fucking shit end? Oh yes, we have. Oh my god.
Skip to page 12 if you want to see it end. Nothing important happens in between.
Yeah, that's what I'm at, page 12 now. He goes looking at the inscription on the fucking hammer, where it's whoever shall be worthy has the power of Thor, blah blah blah.
Yada yada.
This is where we fucking learned this whole time that.
Get it out.
That's why the Duplicate has not been able to defeat Thor, because while he has double the hammer, he doesn't truly hold the power of Thor.
Despite the fact that he's been thoroughly defeating Thor for 3 pages now.
I hate this fucking story.
I might be pointing some of this stuff out just to piss you off more.
I know.
Because it's hilarious.
Oh my god, this is painful.
Oh, this is.
So what
This
happens?
story is really bad.
So what happens here is Thor flies in to try and capture Saxton, and Saxton duplicates him fucking self. He duplicates himself.
Oh, this just reminded me. We glossed over something that unfortunately is actually relevant to the ending, so
Why do you
we
do
need
this
to call
to me?
attention. When you duplicate someone, they have the opposite personality.
which is
So
why
that's why the other Thor was evil and fighting with Thor.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that will be relevant
yeah, that makes
to
sense.
the end of this story.
Yeah. As Saxton, Thor flies in to capture Saxton. Saxton has copied himself, and the original Saxton then falls over a banister and fucking dies. So the copy
And breaks the duplicate machine.
Yes, thankfully. And the duplicate of Saxton is since the opposite personality is if happens from the gun, the copy is actually a good guy. So Thor just lets the copy live a normal life, and we have a whole panel of Jane, and then the story ends with Thor going back to Asgard and stopping the thunderstorm.
I will say I'm impressed they actually remembered the thunderstorm. I figured that was just never going to be mentioned again.
So, what did you like about this story, Ryan?
I gave this one star.
I gave it 2 because it wasn't that bad until the whole duplicate part.
Wow.
I made it worse. I made it worse for Bill too. No, that was funny. Oh my god, this was painful. I legitimately hate this story so much that I couldn't even I had to tap out halfway through a 13 fucking page story. I did not expect that to happen when I started reading it. I was going through it really fast. I spent like 3 minutes getting to that 7th page, and then I'm like, fuck. I was done.
This was dumb, but it was easy to read dumb. And the first half, with Zaxton having to present the android because Don Blake couldn't be in the same place as Thor, and then breaking the android because he didn't like that Don Blake was getting the attention, was fine. I mean, that was just normal early Silver Age storytelling. So I didn't really have a problem with that. But then the duplication starts, and holy shit was that bad.
Oh my god, I forgot.
I'm sorry, I just fucking hate, and I'm going to harp on this for both companies, any company that does this. It annoys the fuck out of me. You're running along, you run out of ideas, so your go-to story is, oh, look, it's my superhero, and now there's a duplicate of him who's a bad one. And it's fucking tedious. They've done it, and I'm not just, this is not a Marvel issue.
No, this is a superhero thing.
Comic-wide problem. I mean, Batman's gone through it, Superman's gone through it. Superman's got how many different duplicates of him, from Bizarro or whatever his name is to fuck only knows what, right? You know, and I mean, I can understand, you know, the duplicate of, alternate universes. I don't have a problem with that, like all the different Flashes. Yeah. Like the Infinite Earths ideas and shit like that. That's fine.
It's specifically just the evil version of the good hero that someone makes.
Yeah, just for the sake of having a story that month, because you had no other freaking ideas. So, look, Thor has a bad guy Thor to fight against.
I'm pretty sure they wanted to do something with the android and then couldn't figure out how to make it work, so they just pivoted into this duplication storyline.
There's levels to it too, because there can be the base version of it where it's a whole different guy, but they're literally like the same. It's the same power set and same
gimmick doesn't count as the same problem. Like Titanium Man in Iron Man is fucking great. That is a cool villain.
Yeah, that's not.
It's a literal carbon copy in this case of Thor that he's facing.
Except it has no power, but because Thor's stupid, it kicks his ass for like 4 pages.
Well, that's the thing I was gonna say.
Every superhero's gone through it, right? I mean, it's one of the main tropes of Superman.
Oh, exactly. But they didn't
Spider-Man's been through it.
Yeah, they didn't even do the trope well here, is my point.
Yeah.
They could have at least given evil Thor's powers so that it was a fight.
Yeah.
The ending here is so shit. I forgot how bad it was since I didn't read it today.
That's why I had to remind you of the personality switch, because otherwise why he let the duplicate of Zaxton just go would make no sense.
I remembered that he lets the duplicate of Zaxton go, but I didn't add the context in of the personalities. So, oh my god,
it's just so tedious when they go in this direction, right? You know, it just feels like they've given up this month.
Yeah. Well, here's the good news.
Okay.
This was the worst story concept of this episode.
Okay.
I hated 2 of the other stories more than this one, but they at least weren't as tired a concept.
See, this is where Bill and I differ, because this is my least favorite, but Bill has a different least favorite that's coming up. We have some, but Bill did say this was the most tired concept, which is pretty true. But
it just is. It's just. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. And
admittedly, the one I hate the most, partly, is because of just, it's a story, much like Dan with the fighting the villain that's literally a duplicate of the hero.
Yeah.
It's one of my least favorite story tropes that was incredibly common around this time that comes up in and I hate.
Yeah, which we'll get to. By the way, Professor Saxton never appears again. But
well, good, because he's dead.
Moving on to the next. Yeah, he's good now. His duplicate's good, so it's okay. So inconsequential is the definition of that story.
This issue was filler. There's a lot of filler this month.
There is. Tales to Astonish number 46. When Cyclops Walks the Earth. No, not that Cyclops. This one's by Stanley and Ernie Hart on writing. We have Ernie Hart with a legendary screw-up on writing, which we'll talk about. We have art and inks by Don Heck. Fuck yes, something good about this issue. Jack Kirby and Dick Ayers on the cover. Sam Rosen's on letters again. This is a May 1963 release, a 13-page story, and I will pass this one gleefully off to Dan.
Oh, thank you so much.
Anytime, buddy.
Fun aside, while Don Heck is normally a great artist, he cannot draw Cyclops' face.
Who cares?
I cared because I had to look at it during this story.
Well, he's got his hair covering his eyes.
I knew from the start. I saw there was a Cyclops in this issue, and I pretty much tapped it from the start. So there was only going up from just seeing the cover.
To be fair, when I called this up and I saw the cover, I tapped out. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I did.
That's reasonable. This story is not good.
That's why I said it can
Ernie
only...
Hart clearly does not understand the characters he's writing. I'll just put that out there right now. I wish he did, because his version of the characters is way better than the canonical one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that Marvel occasionally does that really annoys me, and any comic that does this, regardless, but Marvel's bad for it, is having the characters have dialogue on the cover. It's just irritating, right? It's, you should be able to convey what's going on without the characters talking. You can put a bubble in there with a title or what's going to happen next, bum, bum, bum. But when they're talking to each other and Ant-Man's going, "At ease, honey," like, what the fuck?
That doesn't inherently bug me. It depends how it's done. I'm fine with some lines on the cover. It just depends how it's done. In this case, it's a bad case.
Yeah, it's just, I don't mind, like descriptions and titles and all that shit. I just don't like dialogue between characters on the cover.
I have a soft spot.
Chintzy.
I have a soft spot for the terrible, dated dialogue covers, where Superman is trying to make Jimmy Olsen marry an ape or something, and he's just like, "No, Jimmy, you have to marry the fucking ape," and it's right on the cover, and it's hilarious. It's terrible and it's dated, and I don't like it because I think it's a good idea. I just think it's fucking funny, and so I generally like it. But yeah, this one's not even bad enough to be so bad it's good.
Okay.
I do have some notes right before we pass this off to Dan to get through hopefully quick. I have a sarcastic note here that's like, "Can't wait for Cyclops," and then I also have an important note that points out, apparently this ushers in the Marvel Age of Comics, because on the cover, I think this is the first cover, they have it right there. They talk about
this is
the
when
Marvel
they
Age of
started
Comics.
the Marvel Age thing.
So what a great
start. So the Silver
start.
Age actually lasted very short in Marvel.
Yeah. So this. Yeah, so
okay.
This kicks us off, Dan, so take us right into it.
Okay, when Cyclops walks the earth, he trips because he has no depth to his vision because he's only got one eye. Okay.
I had a joke about that coming up.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. You didn't know, but they make a comment later on about the Cyclops' excellent vision. And I'm like, how? He can't see depth.
Yeah, he's got no field of depth. I can't even talk right now. So, here we go. You ready, guys? Because this is going to be riveting. It's going to hold you in your seats, simply because your headphone cord isn't long enough. But anyway, with a lull in crime, Henry Pym and Janet Van Dyne decide to take a vacation. Together? Are they married? Oh my God, what kind of man is he? This is horrible. Taking this poor young child off to vacation in Greece. Wow, when her father hears about this, there are going to be problems.
Oh, wait, he's dead.
Oh, well.
He got killed by a giant fart from the other side of the galaxy.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, don't you remember that in Wasp's first appearance?
I'm trying to forget. Okay, traveling to Greece, they hear stories of a giant monster. Gee, I wonder if it could be like a Cyclops or a Minotaur, that has been reported to be stealing ships from the sea.
The Minotaur's in, I think, Iron Man.
Okay. which makes them unable to get someone to take them to the island. However, one man later lends them one. Lends them one what?
A boat.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't say that in this. Renting a boat and assuming their guises of Ant-Man and the Wasp, the two heroes seek to solve the mystery of this apparent sea monster. Dum dum dum. While out at sea, they are attacked by what appears to be a Cyclops of Greek myth. Okay, so far so good. I can handle this. Shrinking down to ant size so as not to be noticed by the giant creature, who probably has visual acuity based on movement since he has no field of depth, the heroes allow the monster to capture their boat. The monster brings them to where are all the people that were on the boat in the cover? The monster brings them...
You mean covers in comics are not representative of what's in the story?
I am crushed.
You shock me.
I am devastated to find this out. I thought Marvel was so butch. Okay, the monster brings them to an island where they find all the missing people are being held captive by the monster Cyclops. While exploring the island, they discover that for fuck's sakes, they discover that aliens are plotting to take over the Earth, believe it or not, and that they've captured the fishermen and sailors in order to study them. They too learn that the Cyclops is actually a robot the aliens created to capture their specimens. God, this sounds so familiar. I wonder if perhaps they came up with this idea for a Hulk comic or something. The aliens, known as Achiltarians, surmise that the human race is inferior to themselves and thus easy prey for global conquest. The invaders order the Cyclops to destroy the humans on the island. Yeah, okay. Ant-Man sends the Wasp to free the sailors while he tries to find a way to stop the Cyclops. Entering into its mechanisms through the robot's mouth, Ant-Man realizes he can control the Cyclops by adjusting the frequency of his, completely magical helmet that can do anything. He then uses the Cyclops to free the sailors and scare away the aliens, leaving them to believe humans are more powerful than they had originally posited. With the aliens defeated and the sailors free, Ant-Man commands the Cyclops to walk to the bottom of the ocean to be lost at sea forever. Ant-Man and Wasp...
Once again, they give a very powerful device that could be a useful weapon of war to Namor.
Yeah. Ant-Man and Wasp return to the mainland where they enjoy their vacation with a little waka waka waka, going on there, even though they're not married. Wow, it's pretty risque. For a few days before returning home. If I had read this when I was a young boy, it would have destroyed me as a human being. I'd have grown up to do drugs and not obey the law. Sex before marriage. What the hell is this? Stan Lee is just, it's his fault the 60s were the way they were.
You might have been a hippie or something.
He's the one. He's the one to blame for the flower power and all of that. He's probably why the Beatles broke up too, isn't he?
I would believe that.
Yeah. Stan, I know you're dead, but when I die, I'm going to go see you and I'm going to bitch slap you right in the back of the head for this story. Anyway, that's literally it. It's another aliens using a robot to take over the world crap. It was Hulk, wasn't it? Was it Hulk or Thor? Hulk.
It was Hulk, and I think it was in Thor, too. No, that was Communist using a robot.
Okay, yeah.
It was Iron...
Iron Man.
Iron Man.
That had to fight the alien robot.
Yeah, Iron Man had an alien robot, too.
Yeah. Speaking of stories that they fall back on.
Oh, yeah, they use this one a lot as well.
Does anybody have anything kind to say about this story?
Excluding the drawing of the excluding Don Heck's drawing of the Cyclops, the art was good.
Okay, that's good. That's positive.
And as Bill pointed out, the characters are written well, but they're not written correctly, technically.
Yeah, I fucking loved Hank and Jan's interactions in this comic. The problem is they didn't act like that before, and they don't act like it afterwards, so it had to be counted as a strike against the comic. Because they were completely out of character.
Yeah, they're technically out of character here.
But if the comic continued to be written the way their interactions were written in this one, I'd probably actually like Ant-Man.
Ernie Hurt should have been given the reins on Ant-Man.
He should have been. Honestly. It was the best depiction of not the best depiction of their relationship because it was so inaccurate to the way the relationship goes.
Premarital sex.
The version of their relationship I would have wanted to read.
I'm so offended by this. Premarital sex.
Oh, come on. They were completely responsible. They slept in separate beds and everything.
How do you know?
Oh.
Because it's the 60s and this got a comic code approval.
Wow.
Just in case you guys were wondering, Kraglin does appear again in the all-new Guardians of the Galaxy annual in 2017.
No, fuck off.
Yeah, it's his first appearance. It's the
If you
first
haven't
appearance of the
figured this
Chiltarians, too.
Yeah. If you haven't figured out, this one was a 1-star comic for me.
I gave this one too, because anything was better than the Thor after, in my opinion. Though going through this again, I probably well, you know what? The inaccurate writing of Jan and Hank bumped it up for me, so that's why it gets the 2
That's
still.
funny. It bumped it down for me because it was wrong.
I don't care if it's wrong.
I could not justify more than 1 star for this. I can't. It's the same story, different superhero. Just change the superhero, change the name of the aliens, give them a giant robot, and off you go.
It definitely it doesn't not deserve a 1 is all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
There's not really much to say about it. It's a pretty fucking unnecessary story as well. So we're gonna move on to Tales of Suspense number 44 as Iron Man faces the menace of the Mad Pharaoh. Bill's favorite story devices in this issue. We have Stan Lee and Robert Bernstein. Oh, good. Robert Bernstein's back. Fuck yes.
That's why it's terrible.
Yep, that completely makes sense now. Art's by Don Heck. Don Heck has a month here. Not the best month for him to work, but he's working, so that's great. Jack Kirby, Dick Ayers on the cover, and Sam Rosen on letters. And we have a May 1963 release, 13-page story, and it's Bill's time to shine.
Here we go.
If it was not clear, I hate stories where modern heroes go to ancient Egypt.
That's the story device we've been teasing.
I absolutely hate that story device. It's never good.
Wow.
But unfortunately,
before you go further, just wait. Before you go further, this is
if you're going to talk about the device he's using on the splash page,
I'm not.
I was going to get to that when it comes up in the story.
No, the thing is, I have no notes about this one because my one note here is I had the notes for this issue, but apparently I didn't save them and lost them. Whoops.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah. Alrighty, Bill. Take it away.
All right. So this story opens with Tony Stark arriving in Egypt because he has a friend that's an archaeologist and is trying to find some sort of archaeological discovery inside one of the pyramids. And so Tony figures that, hey, I could use some of the devices on the Iron Man armor to penetrate this pyramid and find the burial chamber he's looking for. So I'll go off and talk to my friend, Iron Man, and get him to come out here. So he leaves, and then he goes out drinking for a while, and while he's drinking, reporters question him about how he thought he'd get on with Cleopatra, because the misogyny did not end last issue. And Tony kind of brushes them off because he's getting low on power. So he goes back to his hotel room and plugs himself in and charges up. And then in the morning he turns fully into Iron Man and he goes to the dig site and puts a pair of fucking goggles on over top of his robotic helmet to see through the wall of the pyramid and find the burial chamber. And then when he finds it, he gets out a drill and drills a massive hole in this priceless historical artifact right into the burial chamber. And him and the archaeologists go in there and they find a sarcophagus containing someone called the Mad Pharaoh. And they're going to go take it out and explore the contents of it. But Tony takes off because he figures that his friend's going to get suspicious if he doesn't show up in his Tony Stark persona sometime soon. So he takes off and turns back into Tony Stark.
He goes out and takes off his armor, basically.
Yeah, basically, yes. And comes back to the archaeological camp, where he discovers that it has been completely taken over by the now living Mad Pharaoh, who had only put himself into suspended animation. We get a good flashback where he's like leading a rebellion against Cleopatra in the past, and he's completely surrounded by the Roman forces under her command.
Mm-hmm.
So he drinks a potion to put himself into stasis, and they take him and prepare his body in the way he had asked to be prepared in his will, and put him in the burial chamber of this pyramid. And then he slept for 2,000 years until they woke him up. And somehow, I don't think the Roman, like the time of Cleopatra, was right around 0 BC. But
Cleopatra, 33 BC.
Okay, so it was actually about 2,000 years. I thought Stan was off by a couple hundred, but it didn't matter.
No, not that much.
Okay. Well, fortunately, inaccurate time was not one of the reasons I docked this story, so... but anyway, the Mad Pharaoh has realized that Tony Stark is the most brilliant mind of the 20th century, so he needs to take him back to ancient Egypt, and he can build lots of weapons for the Mad Pharaoh that will allow him to succeed at conquering Egypt.
Okay, yeah, so, she died 30 BC.
Okay, so yeah, it was actually right then. Anyway, so he uses some sort of magic to take him and Tony back to the time of Cleopatra in the desert, and he's like, well, now that you're trapped back here with me, you will do whatever I want. And so Tony just yeets himself off the back of a sand dune and quickly changes into his Iron Man armor while he's out of sight. And he flies up and abandons the Mad Pharaoh in the desert and flies back to an Egyptian palace that they're not specific about where it actually is, that's under siege. And so he breaks up the Roman army that's sieging this palace and sinks their boats and smashes all their siege engines. This goes on for a bit. And then the Egyptians, who also look like Romans, are fairly welcoming to him because he just rescued them from this besieging army. And he's just about to go into the palace when he sees a ship coming that's going to get destroyed by a Roman ship that's attacking it. So he goes and sinks the Roman ship. And the ship he saved happened to have Cleopatra on it. So he's taken into the presence of Cleopatra, where she immediately falls in love with him. And he warns her that the Mad Pharaoh has come back to life and is going to take over her country. And so she gets the army, and she's going to go fight the Mad Pharaoh, but they're going to get there too slow, and he'll have raised an army. So Tony lies on his back in the desert and sticks wheels on his back and his ankles and a propeller on the top of his head and zips across the desert as fast as possible and goes and confronts the Mad Pharaoh just as he's trying to escape to the 20th century to get away from Cleopatra's army. And so Tony just goes and breaks his magic time traveling device, and the Mad Pharaoh trips and falls on a sword. No, I'm not glossing anything over. He literally just trips and falls on a sword for no reason. And Cleopatra tries to kiss Tony in thanks for saving her kingdom, but Tony is at that moment whisked back to the present, and he goes and talks to his archaeologist friend who's trying to figure out why there's a picture of Cleopatra hugging someone in armor in the hieroglyphics. And then he gets questioned by more reporters about if he could have scored with Cleopatra, and that's how the story ends.
Boy, I'm glad we read this comic. My life is
I warned you,
complete
the
now.
first 3 stories of this run were really weak. This was another 1-star comic. I fucking hate the setting. I hate the continued misogyny, although this one was nowhere near as bad as the last comic for that.
Yeah.
And I hate that Tony didn't even actually defeat the villain. He just tripped trying to grab his magic time travel thing and fell on a sword and died.
I give this one 2. I don't, there's not really much justification for it. I mean, I enjoyed this one more than you, but that's not saying much, but I really tried to ignore the blatant misogyny in this one more, but it's definitely really bad.
This one I was okay with writing off as the time period it was written in.
I was really okay with writing off as Robert Bernstein.
that is also valid, but you see, I will dock a comic for having a bad writer.
Yeah, I know.
I won't dock a comic for tropes of the time. I will dock it for just a bad writer.
Well, it's different than the other Thor or the other Iron Man ones, at least.
And I will say, honestly, it probably deserves a 2 more than a 1. I couldn't get past my hatred of the trope of the modern hero going back to the medieval
King Arthur's court crap.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not unique to Egypt. I hate it even more in Egypt than in other settings, but it's not like I would be happy if this was King Arthur's court.
Yeah. Oh, no, I hate that whole time travel thing. Let me qualify that. I hate when they use it unthinkingly.
Yeah.
You know.
The Black Knight going back to King Arthur's court when that comes up in the 70s is actually pretty good because he has like a medieval theme to him, so it works.
Yeah. I mean, there are times when time travel is an integral part of the story. Like, look at the Avengers movies. You know, the time travel is vital to the entire plot line. And
that doesn't run into the same issue with me.
No,
because they time travel, but they time travel to eras where the gimmick isn't just, oh my god, this person has high technology and is perceived to be a wizard.
Yeah, well, I
don't hate time travel. I hate the whole, you're a wizard because you have technology from the 20th century and you're in some era that didn't have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love Doctor Who, right? And time travel is a huge part of that. But I just dislike when time travel is just a plot device that isn't thought out. I guess is the best way to put it. When they just go, oh, and he time traveled, and here's your story, and let's go back to regular time. You know, we've had our crisis and everything, but, you know, let's not worry about how this fucked up the timeline. You know, it's just... But
it's lazy. They clearly
it's painfully lazy.
I imagine this was around a time when some Egyptian movie came out. Because
this would have been the early 60s, would have been the era of the blockbuster films like Anthony and Cleopatra, Spartacus. You know, the 50s and 60s saw a lot of...
I'm thinking one of those came out right around then, because a little bit of spoiler, but either next week or the week after, I'm not sure which one of those 2 weeks it turns up, but we get another traveling to ancient Egypt story in a different comic, and it's from either the same month or like 1 month after. So they definitely, Egypt was a hot topic at the time.
So what you're saying is you want to do that one as well when it comes out. We understand, Bill. It's okay.
Oh yeah, Dan, I have a question for you.
The answer is only on Sundays if she's not married.
Okay, and a second question for you. You brought up last week on our bonus episode
I wasn't here last
that
week.
Liverpool and Manchester United were playing in the interim between our recording sessions. How'd that go anyway?
Oh, shut up. Jurgen says relax. We're not talking about this, Bill. We're not talking about this.
I wasn't expecting it this
I
early.
was. I knew it was going to come out at some
Oh,
point.
I
I
knew
in
it
was
time.
saving it until you got off on Spider-Man, but that trying to throw me under the bus for the other terrible Egyptian story coming up brought it out early.
Yeah. Well, okay, look. We kicked the ever-loving snot out of you guys last season. Twice. Okay? You had to
And
have
in
at
the
least
season
one
when
win.
we really suck, you couldn't beat us.
Uh-huh. Well, call it a pity win. You got to have at least one win this season, right?
I call it the greatest humiliation of your football viewing career.
Oh, shut up. Oh, my God, I just knew this was coming. I knew it was coming. Oh. Oh. For somebody who never walks alone, I feel very lonely right at the moment.
Okay, that was good.
Oh, you're just so mean. I thought you guys were my friends.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Say Dan's walking for miles in a pit of danger.
Oh, I've been walking in humiliation for a week now. It's just, oh, God.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's going to take you a long time to live that one down.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Or how do you feel about the fact that Arsenal is in first fucking place?
At least it's not Chelsea.
No, but
It's not good, but at least it's not Chelsea, Liverpool, or City.
and who did you play? You played Brentford the week before, didn't you? How'd that go?
You know, this is not going to end the way you want it, Dan.
I know. Okay, let's go on to the next
because
comment.
all we're establishing is that you couldn't beat a team that got bodied by Brentford.
Oh man. Well, this isn't a football podcast, but we sure like to sprinkle it in. But we're gonna move on to Fantastic
Bastard.
Four number 18. Nobody appears again from that last comic besides Cleopatra, but whatever.
If your
Fantastic
cereal
Four-
tomorrow morning smells like urine, you know I snuck in during the night.
After Fred of Piston and Cereal, this is gonna be Dan's comic to cover as well. So
Which one am I doing?
We have a Fantastic
Is
Four
it
number
too late
18.
for me
Oh,
to
okay,
trade
yeah.
with Dan?
No.
A scroll walks among us.
Yes, it is. It's too late.
A Scroll Walks Among Us is the story name. It is too late. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby are the team of this on this, of course. Dick Ayers is helping on inks. George Russo's helps on the cover art with Jack Kirby. Stan Goldberg colors. Letters by Artie Simic. It's a June 1963 release. So the story that we were teasing earlier with the same type of setting is actually a couple months after that last one then. And this is a 21-page story. And off we go to Dan, who is not being given the reins on Spider-Man.
Oh, thank
I will
God.
say I really like the George Russo's covers.
Um,
He's the one that
yeah.
does the kind of textured 3D looking thing,
yes.
and I think that's a really cool look.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned it because I was gonna bring it up as well. Thing is a very good look. Sue looks better in this. Even Johnny bitch looks good in this.
Johnny's not on this one.
Who
He
is
is.
he?
He's getting
Oh
caught
yeah,
by
he's
Reed.
falling.
He's falling. I was going to say who's Mr. Funtastic trying to catch.
I'm looking at this and somehow I blocked Johnny from my mind.
I was going
We
to
can
say
tell
he's
I
right
like
there.
Human Torch.
He's right, literally in the center of the cover.
Yeah, I was going to make fun of you for mistaking the Super Skrull for him, and I completely missed him not in flaming form.
Yeah. Okay. So the fabulous Fantastic Four learn that a Skrull walks among us. Oh God, this is going to hurt.
I do have a note here that says, what a lame start, so this is good.
Well, you'd think you'd have some pity on me after my team lost to fucking Manchester United. Oh my God, that's embarrassing.
Now, where's the fun in that?
Well, at least you're not making me do Spider-Man. I'm good. Okay. After watching the news coverage of their battle against Doctor Doom, copyright Marvel, Reed and Sue prepare to go on a test run to the Hawaiian Islands in the new experimental passenger ICBM device. While they're gone, the Torch and the Thing go on separate dates. Well, that's probably for the best. And meanwhile, in the fifth quadrant of the Andromeda Galaxy, continuity number 2, the Emperor of the Skrulls has finalized his plan to destroy the Fantastic Four after his people's last failed attempt to invade the Earth. This time the Skrulls have created a new warrior called the Super Skrull, who I thought was actually pretty cool.
The Super Skrull's a good villain.
Yeah, I like him. Who can mimic all of the abilities of the Fantastic Four, but is far more powerful than his foes. I remember the Super Skrull fighting them, and I thought it was really cool. After demonstrating his powers, the Super Skrull is given orders to conquer the Earth. Woo, yay! A week later, the Fantastic Four are out shopping when they hear radio reports that an alien being landed at Times Square. They arrive just as the Super Skrull has declared Earth as belonging to the Skrulls and planting the Skrull flag. When a mob of people confronts the alien, the Super Skrull easily bats them aside. When the group tries to battle the Super Skrull, they find they are no match for his superior abilities, especially when he combines them and uses his naturally born Skrull shape-shifting powers. When the Fantastic Four are forced to flee the scene, that's not embarrassing. The Super Skrull allows them to leave, planning on going after them. Later. Back in his lab, Reed begins investigating the source of the Skrull's power, as they are not natural. How would he know it's an alien? God almighty. He soon deduces that the energies needed to power him are beamed from the Skrull homeworld. Do they have any concept of how much time that would take?
No, they don't.
Right. Fuck almighty. Reed constructs a device that will jam the Super Skrull's powers, of course. The Fantastic Four then goad the Skrull into meeting them on a deserted island for their final battle. There, the Fantastic Four keep the Super Skrull occupied while the Invisible Girl plants the jamming device on their foe. The device works as planned, blocking the energies needed to power the Super Skrull. Without his powers, the Skrull is knocked into a crater on the island and is trapped below by the Torch, who uses his power to fuse sand over the opening. And that's it.
Yeah.
For all you people who were hoping for a good story.
Well, most of the good stuff didn't make it into that synopsis.
Okay, fair enough.
Wait, that was the whole synopsis?
That's
literally
it.
Wasn't cutting stuff. Like half the story was like little comedy vignettes.
Yeah.
Like the stuff when they're shopping and the stuff where they go on vacation and so.
Yeah. And
that cut out all the good shit.
Because none of the good stuff was integral to the story. The good stuff was things like Ben in a hurry to go fight the Super Skrull, but having to get down an escalator, just yanking the belt and making it into a slide and sliding down it.
Did that even touch on Super Skrull's fun power display he had on before he went to fight the Fantastic Four?
No, it said that he demonstrated his powers, and that was it.
No, man. That was a really good segment, too. I liked when he was displaying his powers.
That was probably my least favorite part of the entire comic, actually.
What the
Because
fuck?
I found that they went too far with overpowering him, and it's like, there's no way they're going to keep this.
They even left how far he could go in terms of like he left the Sue part kind of the way he used Sue's powers too was kind of funny. It was
Yeah, no, that was the synopsis in total.
No, and it was a good synopsis for telling you what happened in the story. It was not a good synopsis for telling why the story was good.
Okay, that's fair, because normally Fantastic Four synopses are much more detailed.
Yeah, but
on
like
this
this
site.
one,
it is action heavy, this issue, to be fair.
and it's a lot of comedy that has no relevance. Like they open and after they watch themselves on the news, there's a whole part where Ben gets really excited because they're going to show candid pictures of him next.
Ooh.
But then the
Is he
news runs
rock
out
hard?
Yes, but then the news runs out of time, and so he ends up seeing a dog food ad instead.
Candid photography? Holiday photos?
The
Wink,
way
wink,
that
nudge,
Bill
nudge, and say
nonchalantly
no
moved
more?
forward is why I'm laughing.
Yeah.
I've learned that if I react to Dan, it just gets worse.
I've had I have a note. I have a note in here that I took a quote that somebody said in the issue where it was like, he's like an alien Human Torch, and then I was like, that may be one of the most terrifying sentences I've ever read.
Yeah. It may be. Well, now, you know what? I like Super Skrull. I always have. Right? I think he's a great villain.
He is pretty good, even though he copies the hero's powers. But he doesn't. It's a good way how it's done.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
actually, that gimmick works a couple of times because the Super Adaptoid's pretty good too.
Yeah. Well, they could have. If Super Skrull was fighting somebody else, it would be like he would probably kick Iron Man's ass.
Oh yeah.
Right. But I mean, against Fantastic Four having the same powers, they would be able to there's 4 of them, 1 of him. So physically they could overpower him. But it's like he's a good
when you've
villain.
got Mr. Fantastic on your team, you're gonna
Well, I don't know, that's stretching it a bit.
Oh my god.
Why do I associate with you?
That's one of the worst ones you've ever had.
Oh, come on.
Oh my god.
That was horrible, Dan.
I thought it was really good.
I can't. I hate that I set you up for that too.
You did. You really did.
You did walk right into that one.
You laid it out in front of me. I couldn't resist.
Oh my god, I'm disgusted.
It just gets funnier the longer it sits.
Yes, it does.
Mostly just because Ryan is so horrified by it.
Oh, this is epic.
The Super Skrull and the Emperor, the Skrull Emperor, don't appear again until Fantastic Four number 32, which we'll get to soon enough. I haven't even gotten to it yet, but I'm sure it'll come by fast. And then that's the other characters in here aren't important. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
it wasn't that bad.
I don't think I said it before, but this was actually a 4-star story.
Oh yeah, we didn't say our ratings. I gave this one 3. I was conflicted on this issue while I was reading it. I was not as into it as Bill was.
Yeah, I don't think it was that bad. Again, a good villain makes a huge difference. First of all,
3 is still a good rating.
Oh yeah, 3 is a good rating. The thing that brought it up for me was I was actually entertained by all the comedy.
Which
Bill
also
is technically
helps.
closer to the average because the average is 3.62, so Bill's technically closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, comedy is good at any point in time. Comedy is good, but like I say, a good
They
villain.
hadn't been landing it with Fantastic Four before, about 4 issues back, and all of a sudden it just clicked, and they seem to have gotten rid of that edge of nastiness that was in there earlier.
Yeah.
Because originally it was all like the jokes kind of had this cruel edge to them. And now you feel like they actually like each other, which makes a huge difference to the enjoyability of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's got to like them because I can't stand them.
That is completely valid.
I guess we know somebody isn't pulling a certain title, but that's
Not this one. Okay, so whose turn is it
moving
now?
on to Amazing Spider-Man number 4, Dan's favorite title.
Yay!
Number 1 on his pull list. We have Nothing Can Stop the Sandman, and we have Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, of course. Steve Ditko gets every fucking credit here that isn't the writing credits, so or the other.
Yeah, he
credits.
even lettered this.
Yeah, so he did fucking everything here. 21-page story from June 1963, and this one's for Bill to take.
There's a reason Steve only gets like 2 stories a month, one of which is a 5-pager. Because he does all the work on Spider-Man, basically. So this opens with Peter as Spider-Man observing a billboard advertising The Spider Menace, a new series by J. Jonah Jameson, starting today in the Daily Bugle.
Good thing they didn't give anything away on the cover.
No, not at all.
What a crap cover.
Yeah, oh yeah, that cover's terrible. I really wish they didn't give away Sandy's entire gimmick there.
Yeah. Man, that is a shit cover.
It sucks because Sandman's so good, too. I wish...
Yeah, anytime you do multiple panels on the cover, it's going to be bad.
Yep. Sorry.
Although I remember one comic I read at one point where literally they were hurting for page count so much that the cover was just the first page of the comic.
Oh.
Not
brutal.
reprinting the first page. You actually had to read the cover to know what was going on in the story.
Jesus.
I think that's a main order comic that will come up on some point too, but I don't remember for sure. I think it might be Iron Man.
Yeah. Holy shit, this is a substantial synopsis. That's better.
Yeah, a lot happens in this story.
This is a big issue.
And after Spidey sees that bit of potential slander against him by J. Jonah Jameson, he spots several thieves hiding in an alley preparing to rob a jewelry store. So he swings down, webs them up, and is about to turn them into the police when the leader of the thieves starts yelling at him that he's going to sue him for assault and take him to court. And he yells so loud that a cop hears them and comes over, and they report him to the cop for assault. And so Spider-Man bolts, and the thieves are all feeling smug about having gotten away with it. And the cop's like, now, I can't actually catch you for anything, but I know you're up to no good. So take off out of here before I have to run you in. So they don't get to rob the jewelry store, but Spider-Man still comes out looking pretty bad for having busted up a couple guys before they did anything.
Yeah, fucking asshole. The fuck?
And he's decides that the best way to cheer him up is to break into J. Jonah's office and leave a little souvenir for him.
What a dork.
So after he pitches an upper decker in Jameson's bathroom, I see Dan knows what that is.
I do too. You already said the joke in the group chat, so I knew it was coming.
Yeah. Spidey goes back on patrol and sees a weird-looking guy in a green stripy shirt that screams villain because it's green.
Yep.
Crawling around on the roof of some building. So Spider-Man just decides to confront him because he clearly didn't learn how well his previous confronting of potential villains before they commit a crime went.
That's a good point.
So he goes and he grabs this guy who has freely admitted that he's planning to rob a couple of banks and doesn't want to get held up by Spider-Man. But oh my god, the guy turns into a pile of sand and just slips out of his arms. So Spidey tries to fight with him, and his first punch goes clean through him. And then he tries to punch him again, but he goes into thing mode and turns rock hard, and so Pete hurts his hand on him.
Oh.
And then Sandman, in the worst panel featuring Sandman ever printed, and I include the purple costume in this, pelvic trusts Spider-Man so hard that he falls over a structure on the roof and rips his mask. And so he runs away so that he doesn't get recognized. And Sandman goes back to robbing banks. And he uses his sand power to rob a bunch of banks while Pete goes home and fixes his costume, hurting himself with the needle on the way. And then we get a newscast telling us about the Sandman's crime spree and explaining his origin story, where he was a criminal who broke out of jail and swam to the shore, but when he landed on the shore, I assume that's supposed to be Alcatraz that he's escaping from then, although they gave it a different name. But when he lands on shore, oh shit, he's right next to a nuclear testing facility, and they set off a nuke. And so, having gotten bit by radioactive sand, he now has sand powers and can turn himself into sand. And so, Pete decides he's got to go do something about this. So he sneaks out of the house and goes to confront the Sandman. And we get a scene of Jonah planning to write an opinion piece linking Spider-Man to the Sandman. But when he sits down in his office chair, he gets stuck to it because what Pete had actually done was web up his chair. And so he takes off his pants and has to get his secretary to go launder them. But she doesn't want to bring them back after they're cleaned and pressed. So she recruits Pete to do it. And so Pete goes in to take them. And Jonah gives him the whole "I want pictures of Spider-Man" speech while not wearing pants. And it's fucking glorious.
Mm-hmm.
But so Pete leaves to go try to get pictures of Sandman. But first he has to go to school. And while he's at school, Sally decides that she's actually going to try to date him. I think that's her name. I'm blanking on it at the moment. Or Liz. That's it, Liz.
Oh,
This is before Liz Allen really got a character, so.
Yeah, she doesn't really matter, so it's okay.
She decides that she'll actually take pity on Pete and go out with him. So she asks him where he's taking her after school. But he has to go and catch the Sandman. So he turns her down, and she leaves with Flash and is all mad. And Pete gets in trouble for not paying attention in school because he's sitting there feeling sorry for himself because he had to turn down a date to go be Spider-Man. And so because he wasn't paying attention, the teacher makes him take all the empty vials from the science lab down to the janitor's room to get them cleaned. And when he's down there, the janitor can't clean them right away because he's working on his new industrial-sized vacuum he just got. Not that that'll be important for later or anything.
No.
Oh, why would a vacuum be an important part of the plot?
And, well, Pete's down in the janitor's room. Flint Marko, the Sandman, decides to hide from the police in the school. So he goes into Pete's classroom and takes over the classroom and starts menacing the teacher. But by then, Pete's come back and turned into Spider-Man in the hall. So he jumps in and starts fighting with Sandman. And we get a really long fight with Sandman all through the school where Spider-Man's completely overmatched.
This is where Steve Ditko starts showing his prowess, trying to make some of these action sequences in these comics more important and much more grandiose, and this is the best fight scene to date yet.
Yeah, and one of the things I really like about early Spider-Man is how he is completely overmatched by basically every villain he fights.
Yeah, so take that, Doc Ock, you aren't special.
Because, yeah, he fights Sandman for like 10 pages, and it's not boring. And he finally lures him down into the basement, into the janitor's room, and tries to fucking murder him with a drill. And Sandman's like, "You're an idiot. I can turn into sand. A drill's not going to hurt me." So he turns into sand to dodge getting drilled to death, and Peter just grabs the giant vacuum cleaner and vacuums him up.
Because he suddenly can't turn back into his own shape after he's been vacuumed up.
Well, he could, but he'd be stuck inside this king-size vacuum
He
cleaner.
really didn't suspect that he was going to get sucked up by the vacuum.
Well, you do know that if all vacuums have an equal and opposite reaction on the other side of the vacuum that blows the air out.
Well,
Yes, and that's why we have you in this, to blow hot air.
Oh.
You see, we know that, but Stanley might not.
Yeah, that is a good question. Did Stan know that? And after he's beat him, Pete's like, "Oh shit, I should have taken some pictures of that with my camera belt so I'd have something to sell Jonah." So he grabs a bunch of sand that was there to extinguish small fires and throws it around in the air and then takes pictures of himself punching the sand cloud and decides he's going to sell those to Jonah, claiming that that's him fighting Sandman.
I forgot about the camera belt.
That's one of my favorite parts of the issue, him fucking fighting literal actual sand to commit fraud against Jonah.
That's so good. Shit.
We cut to outside the school where Jonah's yelling at all the cops about why don't they go in there and overpower the Sandman because there's a lot of cops and it's not like they're in Uvalde or something.
And also, oh shit.
Yes, I went there.
Wow.
Oh shit! I was gonna fucking cut in with an important piece, but that got me off guard. Oh shit! I was just gonna say he wants them to go in to take care of the Sandman and capture Spider-Man, but
Yeah, the Spider-Man was on the next page, I think. He hadn't figured out Spider-Man was in there when I decided to make a Uvalde joke.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
But yeah, when he finds out Spider-Man's in there, he wants them to capture Spider-Man too. And just then, Spider-Man appears on the roof in front of a billowing American flag. Well, actually, from their perspective, he's kind of behind it. Because, well, Steve is doing a lot of innovative stuff with panel layouts. He hasn't completely figured out perspective yet. So Pete's actually partially obstructed by the billowing American flag, according to the police in Jonah. But anyway,
So
he
it's
gives
the
them
rest of the world.
But he gives them the drum containing Sandman, and then disappears back into the school before they can capture them, and turns back into Pete. And just in time, because here comes Jonah behind him, and he's like, "Did you get pictures of those menaces fighting in your school?" And so Peter gives him the roll of film that he hasn't had a chance to develop yet. And Jonah pays him right without verifying that there's anything good on the film, but takes the cost of developing the film out of his pay. And he leaves feeling a little smug that he can write an editorial about how Spider-Man teamed up with Sandman to take over the school. And one of the cops is like, "Mr. Jameson, sir, we actually like Spider-Man and think he helps out a lot."
Alternative facts there, mister.
Yeah. And Peter's gloating that he got away with everything and sold film and cut the Sandman.
So he takes off his
And so he
costume and
can
turns into a whiny little shit again.
Yeah, and so he can go and take Liz out for that date that he didn't get earlier. But now she's not interested because she's mad he claimed that he had plans earlier. And so Flash makes fun of him, and he goes to fight Flash, but then he realizes that he's an augmented human with superhuman strength, and so he would probably literally commit murder if he fought Flash. So he stands there looking dejected while all the other high schoolers drive off to go have fun. And he said Peter's walking home. End of the story.
Pathetic.
This was a great issue.
5 stars.
I gave it
You're
only 4.
fucking kidding me.
I gave it only 4. I wasn't as much of a mark, but still, really good.
A lot of my full 5 was for the fight scene in the school.
The fight scene is really good and for the time very innovative. I really enjoy the mask ripping was actually a fun story beat here, which surprisingly.
Yeah, the only issue was that he was defeated with a pelvic thrust.
Yeah, well,
they really didn't think that one through.
This issue was very kinky.
One little fact for you, though, Bill. The prison he escapes from is Rikers Island.
Okay, they just called it Island
Yep.
Prison.
They mentioned that it is actually Rikers Island in Marvel 2-in-1 number 86.
I was gonna say
Okay, I
that's
haven't read
definitely
that one
retconned in later. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read that far yet. I'm in like 30 or something for Marvel 2-in-1.
Sandman's first origin, surprisingly not that bad here. Oh, I fucking died when Sandman demanded a diploma. That was fantastic.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. I was going to mention that.
I thought
he figured since he was in a high school, he might as well get his diploma while he was there.
Yeah.
And the teacher refused to give it to him because it would violate the integrity of his business, of his profession. That's why Sandman was going to beat him up.
I had some notes at the start that I didn't really touch on either. They mentioned the success of Spider-Man on the first page, which was very interesting. So that shows how hot this was selling at the time.
Well, that can mean one of two things. Either the title is really, really popular, or no one's buying it and Stan's trying to gaslight people into buying the book.
This was the first one,
In
I
this
think.
case, I think it's actually legit, because Spider-Man was definitely the best-selling title they had.
Yeah.
But
and then,
a lot of times when you see that, it means this book isn't selling, and I'm trying to convince you that all your friends are buying it, so you'll buy it too.
Yeah, we'll see that more as we go along. But with Spider-Man, and we'll see in a bit, with Doctor Strange gaining some popularity too. That it's more the first one right now, and then
the Doctor Strange ones are super passive aggressive too, because he hates that Doctor
it's
Strange
hilarious.
is popular.
I can't wait for us to get to that. We also had Spotty. Spotty mentioned how Jonah never gives up on in issue 4 of this title. I need to direct our attention. I'm on the Marvel Unlimited version, so I have some bonus here, and I think this is the first issue that they gave us the Spider's Web letter column. So
it might be. I never read the letters pages, so.
In the letters section at the back includes the announcement of Spidey going monthly. So Spidey is now going to be monthly after this one.
Sorry, Dan.
And then and then they also give us a tease of the X-Men at the back of the letters column. I try to skim through to see if there's any cool facts. So. Any cool things?
I see the little panel at the end, and I just closed the window. Anything that's after the story, I never know about.
That's okay. I'll be that person to point at some fun facts.
I've gone back and looked at some of the pin-ups they've done because you've mentioned they exist.
Yeah, that's a big Fantastic Four fan sometime. So yeah, that was Spider-Man. Like I said, 4 stars. Bill gave it 5.
Another important feature that's not mentioned by name in this story, but this is also the first appearance of Betty Brant.
Yeah.
She's the receptionist that didn't want to give Jonah his pants back because he was too angry.
Yeah. She'll be appearing frequently going forward, and she'll
be the first major supporting character that's not Aunt May in this title.
Yeah. She is, I'm not going to spoil what role she plays, actually, because we'll get to it real soon. But we have, oh my god, Charlie appears in Spider-Man number 38, thank god. We have the Sandman, though, the big boy of the issue. He'll be appearing next, not in Spider-Man, but in Human Torch's Strange Tales, number 115. So stay tuned.
I seem to remember that actually being a pretty decent story, too.
It is, but half of the reason it's so good because Sandman's so good, so...
Yeah, and it has Spider-Man as a guest appearance, which automatically makes the story better.
Yeah, so Torch had some stuff going for him that month, but yeah. Good issue though, really good. Like a lot going for it. Fuck you, Dan. Just had to throw that in. So we are gonna go on to the main event, which is actually the main event this time with X-Men number 1, the debut of the X-Men. The title of the story is just X-Men, apparently, so that's cool. Really original. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Oh, Jack Kirby's even given a co-writing credit here. Cool. Kirby on art, inks by Paul Reinman. Cover arts by Jack Kirby and Sol Brodsky. Interesting. Sam Rosen is on the letters. And this is a July 1963 release, a 23-page story. And prepare for me, the Butcher. Bill's probably going to have to assist me some in this rundown because...
I can help with the second half. I majorly skimmed the first time on my second reading.
I don't remember a lot of the story, to be quite honest, and I couldn't be fucked to reread it, so...
Well, I mean, to be honest, this is one of the ones where the story's not super important. Spend literally half the book introducing the team. And it's actually pretty well done. It's just, I didn't feel like recapping all their powers when I already know them and have already read this.
This one's more for the historical relevance for why it's such a big deal. It's not really that good of a story when you break it down. It's good for the character introductions, but for actual plot and like the actual fill-in in here, it's not really that good a plot. The villain's actually, for such an iconic villain, he actually has a lame introduction here, from what I remember. So, yeah. Here we are.
But like I said, judging it on that is a little harsh, because that's not the point of the story.
Yeah, I know, but...
The point of the story is to introduce the team.
I know, but that's also kind of the difference between you and me. I'm more harsh than you are on a lot of this stuff, so...
Yeah.
So let's pull this up, because I didn't...
Oh, God, this is going to take forever, isn't it?
No, it should be pretty fast, because we know who the characters are.
Oh, for God's sakes. Oh, I was worried Marvel Unlimited wasn't going to work for a second. I almost had to make Bill do this. So we open up with... we're in the professor... we meet Professor Charles Xavier who is obviously known as Professor X. His class is in section. We meet the first class of the X-Men, who are the Angel, Cyclops, Iceman, and the Beast. And
I've got to say, I despise Iceman's current design.
Iceman's first design sucks, especially with him. He's all ice, and then he just has the boots that are just always there. He's so bad.
He's a fucking snowball with boots. Pirate boots.
But we quickly get a demonstration of people's powers. We if you don't know the X-Men powers, I mean, Angel can fly. Cyclops he has laser beams shoot out of his eyes. Beast
Force beams.
Beast
I'm
is
being pedantic because that comes up at points that they're not lasers.
Okay. Iceman, made of ice, can shoot ice. He's the opposite of Human Torch and just as cocky. We have the Beast, who is very athletic and can do. He's a combination of the Thing and Spider-Man, essentially.
I've got to point out, because this might be confusing for modern readers, but at this point, Beast is not blue and furry yet.
No.
That happens way later.
This is when Beast is still hairless. So they're doing power displays, they're training, blah blah blah, who cares? Frosty the Snowman appears.
We're 7 pages in, they're still training.
Yeah. Finally we meet the 5th member of the first class of the X-Men, who is technically, if you want to get pedantic, she's not really in the first class, but she is, because, yeah.
It's the first issue, I'd count it.
It counts, but, I mean, she comes in here. But Jean Grey is met here, who is a Marvel Girl, also known as, I just like calling her Jean Grey, because Marvel Girl, in my opinion, is a shit name, but a lot of people love it.
Even in the early time, they barely ever actually used Marvel Girl.
A lot of people love the Marvel Girl name, but I think it's lame. And Jean Grey is almost a carbon copy of Professor Xavier in terms of powers.
I will say Marvel Girl is a better name than Invisible Girl, because at least Jean is actually a girl and not a full-grown woman.
Yeah, true. And she's a girl that Professor Xavier certainly likes, as we'll talk about in a couple issues later. But the Jean Grey shows off her powers. She can move objects at will. It's very similar to, she's a telepath like Professor Xavier. I think she has that too here, because they start talking to each other at different points.
Yeah,
in this issue or not.
They don't really ever narrow down psychic power sets. They're just generic psychics.
Yeah, there's not really as much layers to power sets for X-Men, and that was more of a thing that kind of came about in like the 2000s when people like Josh Whedon came on board and stuff like that, and started introducing the mega level mutants and stuff, which would kind of showcase, which would expand people's powers more, and really there would be a level base to powers for mutants.
Yeah, but even in modern days, they're not usually specific about the power set of psychic characters.
It kind of depends.
If you're a psychic, you can basically do anything with your mind.
Yeah.
And they don't really worry about it.
Yeah, they kind of just, psychics can get kind of generic after a while, but
second only to flame heroes, they're probably the most boring class of heroes that exist.
Yeah, probably. On page 11, we meet Magneto. As Charles is talking about how not all mutants want to help mankind, and we immediately go to Magneto, because who else are you going to go to? Obviously, he's the one that hates mankind the most.
Obviously.
Magneto makes a rocket fail that the U.S. is trying to send into space, so I guess Magneto's their blame for why we didn't beat Russia, or why they didn't beat Russia. We're not American.
I think Russia already had been into space at this point.
We talked.
This was a missile test
episode.
that he was exploding.
Yeah, we talked on that in the previous episode. I was just joshing around. We had a tank. We have that's not important. But there is a message that Magneto puts in the sky that says, "Surrender the base, or I'll take it by force." And he signs his name Magneto, which is pretty kind of him. Yeah. I wasn't paying attention when I was reading this the first time, so I don't really know what's going on here. Magneto somehow propels people
nothing
backwards.
really important happens until page 16, because the next 3 pages are just him taking over the base with magnetic powers.
Yeah, we get showcases of his powers and everything. He somehow propels a whole fucking force of people back. We see Jean Grey.
This was back in the can control you by the iron in your blood period of Stan's understanding of magnetism.
Yeah. We get Jean striking a sexy pose as she has put on her costume. She's the first one we've seen in costume. No, we saw them in costume at the beginning. Never mind.
Yeah, here's my... Oh, we get a naked Iceman spreading his legs as he puts on his boots.
Yes. Speaking of sexy. No.
But I do want to point out here the monumental irresponsibility of Charles Xavier. That was something that struck me on my reread through.
Okay.
Because the 4 guys have been a team for a while and have trained. Jean joined the school yesterday. And Xavier figures it's a good idea to let her go out with the rest of them to try to capture this dangerous mutant that's single-handedly taken over an entire military base.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can question his... We can check... I can't
He's
speak
probably
right now.
thinking with his little brain.
We can question his responsibility in a lot of these issues.
I mean, Xavier makes a lot of really, really bad choices, so that's not surprising.
Let's keep in mind here that these fuckers are teenagers.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best idea to let any of them go without adult supervision to try to fight supervillains, but it's especially a bad idea for Jean, who has never even done a training session.
If we're comparing ages and stuff, Iceman's supposed to be the Human Torch of the team. He's the youngest gun, so
he's sick. They've actually established the ages. He's 16, and the rest of them are 18. Yeah. The only one that's not clear is Jean, but based on later interactions, I believe she is also 18.
Well, let's hope.
Because she's always positioned as the same age as the rest of them, excluding Iceman, whom everyone makes fun of for being younger.
I honestly thought they were supposed to be younger, but I mean, I'll take you for that.
Well, they establish in this issue that Iceman is 16 and everyone else is 2 years older than him.
It's probably later on that they go back and say they were younger.
Yeah, they might get retconned to younger at a later point.
They definitely do.
But at this point, and for the entire original run of X-Men until it goes into reprints, they are 18. Except for Iceman.
At this point, Charles Xavier isn't a pedophile. Let's go.
That's why Charles gets a pass on creeping on Jean, because he technically isn't a pedophile. It's only retconned into pedophilia later, and by that point they've completely dropped the idea of Xavier creeping on Jean, so it gets away on a technicality.
So the X-Men prepare for battle against Magneto. It's kind of funny. We see Angel put on a straitjacket to hold his wings in place.
He's taking it off, but they really make it look like he's putting it on.
Yeah, they do.
Because they're trying to explain why you don't see his wings when he's in civilian gear.
Yeah, that's actually a badly portrayed section.
It's really badly conveyed. I thought he was putting it on first until in the third panel he had his wings free.
The X-Men arrive at the military base that Magneto is, or is it? It's a testing facility. I don't know, but who cares? There's a force field around it of magnetic field, force field around the place that the X-Men are trying to break through. They make it through mainly from Cyclops using his, what'd you say, force beams against.
Yeah, Scott burns his way through the magnetic force field with his I-beams, but knocks himself out in the process.
So, yes, he does. His beast is carrying him there. Magneto shoots / controls rockets against the X-Men, which Angel dodges with his swift flying abilities. Iceman throws snowballs at the fucking rockets to take them down. There we go.
This is also before Iceman's ice slide ability.
Beast does a lot of flipping. Fucking luchadors, am I right? Then we
They're
have...
still teaching us everyone's power set.
Oh yeah, Gene stops a rocket in the air and brings it down in some empty land or some water. I can't tell because it's bad to jump.
It's water. She's on a dock.
I'm not reading anything, so I'm just going with the flow.
I did just notice Magneto's helmet has a cute set of devil horns.
I saw that. Yeah.
I think those are gone by his next appearance, but they're fucking hilarious.
He's a little horny.
Oh, they're literally gone by the bottom of page 22. I think they forgot to draw them and just never brought them back.
They disappeared just like that. That's incredible. Magneto hides. That's all I got there. And then the X-Men go to capture him again, but Magneto ends up escaping. Angel even flies up in the air, but he's gone. But the issue ends with the X-Men being thanked by the military men. And then the issue ends with the classic line being dropped for the first time of Charles Xavier saying, and now return to me, my X-Men. So to me, my X-Men becomes Charles Xavier's little gimmick phrase. So yeah, his little catchphrase.
Yeah. This was another great issue.
This was fine.
I gave it 4 stars.
I gave this one 3. I didn't enjoy it as much as
I think your problem was you were trying to judge it on superheroes fighting a supervillain. That's not the point. This entire book is just a showcase of the X-Men's powers. There are enough of them that they can't skim over them in a page or two. So, this book, they sacrifice story to introduce you to all the characters, and I thought they did a really good job of giving every character time to shine. And so by the end of this issue, you really know what they're all capable of, which is something that comics in this era struggle with, because quite often they'll be like bottom of one page, they're in some deadly, like, terrifying, unescapable danger, and then you turn the page and they pull out some bullshit power that you've never seen before and never will see again.
I agree with you on that one.
And then they're suddenly out of it. And here, it's like, no, by the end of this issue, I know what they can all do. And they don't really pull out other powers. Like, anytime someone gets a new power, it's explained in the story. Like, when Iceman gets his ice slide ability, that's a plot point that he's improved his control over his powers, and that's why he can do this.
So he's not just throwing snowballs or rocks in them anymore.
Yeah, like when they actually have a little arc when he changes to the more traditional Iceman appearance that we all know.
Yeah.
She tried to borrow $30.
And it's directly tied to him getting better at the use of his powers.
Well, that's kind of what the X-Men have been good at through a lot of their history, is the exploration of the power sets and expanding on those for certain characters. So that will become a theme as time goes on. And I definitely I had issues with there not being much of a story, and obviously this is going to be obviously it's important that this is a character introduction. The part of the problem with on top of the lack of story was just I wasn't really connecting with the characters here as much as I would have liked. I know all these characters, and I like all the characters, I suppose. I was considering if I didn't like any of them, but I don't know.
Really like Scott.
Their personalities are. I like Scott. Their personalities aren't really where they're gonna be, so I couldn't really connect.
Yeah, they didn't even really. They even sacrificed like personality to just teach us what they can do.
Yeah, so that was where some of my problem was too. I wanted to connect to the characters more too. So, but whatever.
If they were still writing like this 2 or 3 issues down the line, I'd be docking it for one issue just to teach us who the book's about. I thought it was a good thing that they focused on that.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I still stick with my 3. I
Oh
understand
yeah,
why
I'm not
you.
trying to talk you out of
I
your.
still understand why you give it 4 though. So
Yeah, I'm not trying to talk you out of your rating.
you're technically more on the right than I am. You're more in line with average, but it's just how I felt personally.
And that's
But yeah.
fair. There have been some that I've been completely out from the average.
So that was our last comic of the week, but stay tuned. We have some extra segments. But before the extra segments, I'm gonna set out what we're covering next week. While I'm on the page. Next week we're gonna be covering less comics, but there's a reason for that, as I will talk about in a minute. We're gonna start next week with The Amazing Spider-Man number 5, which sees Spider-Man's first fight with Doctor Doom, which should be fun. We have Strange
This
Tales.
is our first major crossover of a villain going from one book to another.
Yeah, as the start of a bit of a trend. We have this is a big episode actually. We have Strange Tales 112, The Threat of the Living Bomb. That's the worst issue of the worst story of the week probably, and it's still good. Strange Tales Annual number 2, which sees a huge crossover with Spider-Man and Human Torch.
Oh, goody.
Then this is the episode.
The start of this book isn't selling. We need Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's going to make it better.
This is Dan's Ultimate Dream book. Can't wait to cover that.
Fuck.
We have. This is the episode of annuals, by the way, as after the Strange Tales annual, we have the Fantastic Four annual, and the reason why we only get 5 entries next week, because the Fantastic Four annual, the A story, there's 2 stories, by the way. The A story and the Fantastic Four annual, it's a giant size. The A story is 37 fucking pages, so that's why we're only doing 5 entries next week. And we will be doing the B story as well, because it's only like 6 pages, and it's the first story is a Namor centered one where he faced Submariner versus the human race, and then the B story is
This one's for you,
Spider-Man.
Dan.
Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four, because when Spider-Man met the Fantastic Four in his first issue, apparently there needed to be more story. to
Just
that.
kill me.
In other words,
now.
we had 6 pages to fill.
Just kill me now.
And
So-
we ran out of pinups to use.
Next
so we'll
week-
just retell the Spider-Man story.
Next week is a great episode. I would like to point out that Spider-Man appears in 3 different entries of the 5 that we're
Oh,
doing.
my God.
Um,
That's right. I was planning to be sick or something.
No,
That's all right. We can wait.
Assholes.
Yeah, we can miss a week. We've been good with our schedule, but yeah. So next week should be good. Whether just ignore Dan's pain, he might scream a little bit, but it's okay.
Fuck.
He's totally not a hostage next week, by the way. Just ignore if he makes any whimpers or anything. It's okay. But,
Any tapping that sounds like say SOS and Morse code is just an unfortunate sound outside of my apartment. Nothing to worry about.
Right.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I'm glad we're all under the same understanding. But moving on from that, let us move on to our special segments. We're debuting with this episode. When we record this is our last episode of August 2022. And we've decided, Bill came up with a great idea today and added it to an idea I was already having, which we were going to debut later, but we boosted it up because we can put these 2 together. At the end of each month, we are going to choose a favorite and least favorite comic of the month, and then we are also going to do a segment of the show where we discuss what we think would be on our poll list if we were polling these titles at the time they were coming out. So we're going to start off with what our favorite and least favorite titles were of the month.
I'd
And-
say open with least favorite and build to favorite so we end on a high note.
Can I
Yeah.
go first?
I was going to let you go first, actually. So
Yay!
we're going to... Dan will give his least favorite.
Anything with fucking
do we wanna-
Spider-Man in it. Sorry.
Just before we get to the actual picks,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
give everyone a quick rundown of what we have
For options,
for
yes.
options. So this month we had Tales to Astonish 43, which was the Mad Master of Time, the old guy with the age ray. Tales of Suspense 41, the Stronghold of Doctor Strange, not that one. Journey into Mystery 93, the Mysterious Radioactive Man, where Thor fights Radioactive Man. Amazing Spider-Man number 3, Spider-Man vs. Dr. Octopus. Strange Tales 109, The Sorcerer in Pandora's Box. That's Tales to Astonish 44, The Creature from Cosmos. That's the introduction of the Wasp. Tales of Suspense 42, Trapped by the Red Barbarian. That's the Russian general sending the actor to steal secrets from Iron Man. Strange Tales 110, A Story, Human Torch versus the Wizard and Pacepot Pete. Let's use some mediocre villains again. Strange Tales 110, C Story, debut of Doctor Strange. Journey into Mystery 94, Thor and Loki attack the human race. That's the one where Thor changes his personality by being hit in the head with his own hammer. Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos 2, 7 Doomed Men, in which they break into a concentration camp and destroy a nuke. Tales to Astonish 45, The Terrible Traps of Egghead. Egghead returns to minorly inconvenience Ant-Man. Tales of Suspense 43, Iron Man vs. Kala, Queen of the Netherworld. My Rage comic. Strange Tales 111, Fight to the Death with the Asbestos Man, where Human Torch fights the Asbestos Man. And
you skipped Fantastic Four 15.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Fantastic Four 15. Fantastic Four battled the Mad Thinker and his awesome android, what the name says. Then the other Strange Tales 111 story, Face to Face with the Magic of Baron Mordo, where Strange fights Baron Mordo. Fantastic Four 16, The Micro World of Doctor Doom. They shrink down and fight Doom. Fantastic Four 17, they fight Doom on his blimp, and then the comics we covered today.
Yeah.
So, plenty of options for shit and greatness. Well, less for greatness.
The one I hated the most out of all of them.
Give us a legit non-meme answer.
Was the one where the one with the Wasp, where.
Okay, that's fair.
I knew that was your answer.
Yeah,
so did I, actually. You weren't here for Kala, so I totally get that.
Yeah, it was Tales to Astonish 44, I think.
Yeah, Tales to Astonish 44.
You're right.
And it was it wasn't, you open a comic, sometimes you absolutely love them, sometimes you go, okay, well, I've read all this before, only different names. But you don't actually, it's so rare that you read a comic and go, oh my God, this was incredibly unpleasant and distasteful, right? Comics are rarely something you don't enjoy. You may not think it's the best comic you've ever read, but you still enjoy something about it. It's a comic book. How can you not enjoy it? But this one was actively unpleasant to me. I didn't like this issue.
I agree. As the person that had to summarize it, it was unpleasant to summarize, let alone to actually read.
Yeah, I just really, really, really disliked it.
And I think that's a perfect opening for me to name my least favorite comic of the month, which is Tales of Suspense 43. Iron Man versus Kala. All the problems of Tales to Astonish, but even more.
Yeah.
This comic legitimately made me furious.
Yeah, I remember that.
To the point that when I was describing it, I could hear the waver in my voice of me trying to choke down the rage.
Yeah, that was last week. Dan got the witness that glory, but it was certainly something. A lot of misogyny. Moving on, mine. So, I have two options for my least favorite because I still haven't fully decided.
Gotta pick one. Now's the time.
I'm gonna pick one, but I'm still gonna tell you both. But I'm gonna end with choosing which one I'm gonna go with. The first option, today's Journey in the Mystery, but the winner, I actually agree with Dan. My other option was the Tales to Astonish issue 44. Even though I have two issues that rate lower than the Tales to Astonish, the Tales to Astonish is so uncomfortable to sit through with how fucking terrible of a person that Hank is written as, and how uncomfortable and how misogynistic it is. It has to be. It is the worst introduction for a character we've seen yet, and the only reason it gets 2 stars is because of my love for the Wasp, or else it would have been a 1 star.
And that's fair. I'm not going for, like, when I came up with this idea, it's not pick our lowest and highest ranked comic that we've rated objectively. It's which one did you like the most and which one did you hate the most.
Yeah.
That's why
I won't even really. I'll give Dan shit for it, but I won't even really judge him for putting a Spider-Man in there because I know Dan legit does not like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And so even if it's objectively a good comic book, if he enjoyed it the least, that's valid.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
that's why I went with that one today, but the reason I said not to give the Mimi answer from Dan today is because I knew he felt the same as me with the Tales to Astonish.
Yeah.
I knew he was going to go that way.
Yeah. No, that's entirely fair. Like I said, it's so just insanely rare that you're going to read a comic and be uncomfortable and hate it. You're going to read a comic and go, well, that was shit, and kind of, throw it on the pile and move on. You're not going to read a comic and go, oh my God, this really bugged me.
Yeah, and I can't judge it because I legit, when I was reading that one the second time, I put it down. I didn't finish reading it.
Yeah.
I made it through the one I picked, The Tales of Suspense. I finished it because I remembered it got really bad in the end, and I wanted that fresh. For the record, Dan, in that one, it's a society ruled by a queen. And there's a head of her general doesn't like being under the control of a woman.
Yeah.
And so Tony spends the whole time being misogynistic with the general. And the solution at the end, after he's defeated the queen, is he marries her off to the general. And then the general will be the king. And he'll keep things in line because he's not a foolish woman.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes, he missed a good one there. That was actually one of the two stories you were going to cover before we moved it up. So I ended up covering it with Bill chiming in with with their anger. So
yes, that was.
Yeah.
So fun times, but yeah, the Tales that fucking astonishes.
I cannot fault you guys for picking Tales because that one was very close. But I'm like,
today's Thor issue made me angry, but I've legitimately never heard multiple people, there's three of us, I've never heard a podcast situation or a topic discussion type deal where you're talking about something and all of the members talking about that fucking subject are uncomfortable with the subject they are covering so much as we were covering that issue.
I was, during that discussion, I was just like, let it end. We set ourselves up in the situation where to do this, we have to talk about this.
We have
but
to cover.
I don't want to be here right now.
Yeah.
We have going back and reading through this Marvel reading order. It's such a kind of nice that we get to just address this a little bit. We are gonna definitely come across uncomfortable topics that we have to cover in order to do the comics justice that we're.
The Yellow
covering.
Claw is gonna turn up at some point in Iron Man. That's another not comfortable story. The stories are better, but they did not age well.
Yeah.
He's an Asian villain called the Yellow Claw. Guess what color he is?
Yellow. Green.
Yes.
Oh, he's not green?
He wears green, I think, but no, he is banana yellow.
Wow.
Like, even taking the normal racist Asian coloring, they cranked it up to 11 on him.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's going to be uncomfortable times covering some of these comics. But let's not dwell on the negative too much.
Let's go to some. What do we like?
What was Dan's favorite story of the month?
That's actually hard because even just looking at Bill's control list here, there weren't that many that I actively enjoyed this month. But
I know you're a curmudgeonly old man.
Well, there's that too. But I have to say, out of the things that I did like, Tales of Suspense 41, The Stronghold of Doctor Strange, I did not mind that at all. I kind of got a kick out of it.
See, that was the other one-star one I had.
I wasn't expecting that to make a best, but
no, I get what I'm saying is I got a laugh out of it. That
shocked me from Dan.
Yeah,
right?
No, it's a good, not a bad choice. It wasn't one that crossed my mind that I was going to be writing down.
Well,
but here we go.
Yeah, well, looking at it, you got to understand. Okay, I just my own personal aversion of freaking Spider-Man stories is just never going to put him on the list.
No, and like I said, that's
fine.
Valid. It's entirely what you enjoy.
And
and it is now recorded for posterity that is your favorite for the month.
Yeah, and Thor's stories are all just throwaway crap. Same with Ant-Man. Most of his stories are just tedious. There's
Yeah.
no real conflict. It's just he comes up with some magical way to beat them by creating a huge sheet of flypaper or some stupid thing.
Yes.
Right? It's just lame, but I did get a kick out of Thor fighting the Radioactive Man.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Exactly. It was fun.
When?
Yeah. So I might as well go to my best now, which I warned RJ might surprise them. It's Strange Tales 110, The Sea Story, the introduction of Doctor Strange.
You know what?
Okay.
I thought you were going to call that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The really good, like the introduction to Spider-Man, which is my absolute favorite thing we've covered so far on this podcast, didn't happen this month, and none of the Spider-Man we covered quite hit that like unique magical note that Doctor Strange, just a combination of the trippy story and Ditko's phenomenal art.
Oh, yes, I remember that too, yeah.
Reached for me, so that was my absolute favorite thing we've covered this month.
Cool.
You see, you'd think I would have been the one to choose Doctor Strange, but I'm not.
I had you for one of the Spider-Men.
You're right.
Oh.
For my
Because I know who you marked to.
for my easy pick, it's one of the Spider-Man, but it's also not the one Bill would think it is because it's not Doc Ock.
God damn it, I was getting the MJF you fucking mark ready and everything.
Yeah.
I'm
surprised.
I love Doc Ock, but I had rated Doc Ock and Sandman the same, but I actually the Sandman issue we covered today had some moments that made me enjoy it a little more.
But the cover
And
is
that fight
so
scene,
horrible.
The cover's horrible, but that fight scene and some of the story beats were really fun. So that's what took it. I do have to give a shout out because I thought of when I was looking at this list again. I feel bad leaving this one out. A shout out needs to go to the one good Ant-Man issue of the month in Tales of Astonish 43 because that was a fun one-off.
Yeah. I think the one that needs a shout out from me that didn't get mentioned, and it's not one of my highest rated stories overall, but it gets noted just for like the story I think back the most fondly of for an entire run, which is Strange Tales 109 with Pandora's Box.
Yeah.
I was waiting for that to come up somewhere.
Yeah.
That was never one I could see Dan mentioning.
It's not a great story. I think I only rated it 2 or 3 stars. But when I think about, and it's been 4 years since I originally read these.
Yeah.
But when I think back about having read Strange Tales, that's the one that always comes to my mind as, I didn't hate that.
Yeah, I wanted it to be so much more than it ended up being. Is my problem.
But same here. But
they could have gone so many directions with it.
Given the book it's in, it wasn't horrible.
Yeah, but instead of going in a good direction, they just decided to just sit there and not do anything with it. Is my problem. It's like at least like the one I picked. Where the science guy wants to give his daughter the world and blah 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 blah. Like there is a bit of texture and depth to the story.
Yeah, I did. It would have sucked if she wanted it.
Oh, absolutely. And
but the fact she's like, what is wrong with you?
Like I say, there is texture and depth to the characters, and it doesn't play out the way you expect it to. She doesn't want it. She walks away from all of this. And it's just it was different and weird and a bit of fun.
It was easily the best Iron Man we covered this month.
Cool.
As opposed to fighting,
What Iron Man do you think was better than that one that we covered this month?
I'm just gonna say there wasn't a good Iron Man this month because I can't defend choosing another one.
That's fair. That's fair too. None of them are great.
Yeah, that is also fair. None of them are great. If I had to pick one, it was the best.
Yeah.
I would have gone with the one today if I had to choose.
No.
But they were all awful. They were all awful. So.
Oh my God, the one today was horrible.
Well, I can't choose last week's.
Oh, yeah.
I might hit you if you chose that one.
Bill's gonna fucking attack me if I choose last week. So, I guess on that note, we should probably move on to the poll list segment. So, what our deal with this one is, like I was saying before, at the end of each month, we're going to update with the last segment we did. We're going to update and see what titles we would be pulling at the end of each month for everything we've covered throughout the month. And if we'll give it a yes or a no for if we would pull the title, we'll give some depth and explanation of why we would or wouldn't. This segment's mainly for Bill and I, but hopefully Dan will get a kick out of this too. But yeah,
it'll probably be a little more simplistic in the future because it'll just be like, which titles are you adding and which ones are you losing? But
this one has more.
Someone.
This one has more context than the ones going forward will. This one will take longer just because we need some context to where we're starting.
Yeah, but we didn't think of it the first month, so we kind of got to cover some ground.
Yeah, I'm actually going to tap out on you guys because I got to go get some dinner.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good one, Dan.
Okay, guys. Talk to you later.
We will see you next week.
Bye.
All right. Well, are we gonna start? Are we gonna go in order like the list that I had?
We might as well go down your list.
Okay.
I went through just the month's comics, but
so I guess for both of us, are we pulling Fantastic Four? Are you pulling Fantastic Four?
I said yes to Fantastic Four. It's probably the second best comic that's being written right now. And I've been enjoying them a lot more than I enjoyed the concept of Fantastic Four before I started doing this read-through and had to actually read the books.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I gave it a yes too. It's technically the most important title.
That doesn't necessarily count for anything, though. I would have been pulling it a month ago.
No, that's fair, but I definitely they've been getting better. So
this is the month that tipped them over until I would pull them.
I probably see that's where you and I differ too. I probably would have been pulling it the whole time. You would have definitely jumped out and in probably.
I don't think I would have jumped in before the 2-part Doom arc.
Fair enough. But yeah, I would be pulling Fantastic Four. It's if not the second best title, the third. I give Sergeant Fury a little edge possibly over Fantastic Four, but still.
Fury's on 2 issues, one of which I didn't terribly love.
That's fair enough. That's partly me reading more coming into. So Fantastic Four realistically is probably the second best title just because Sergeant Fury hasn't had enough issues yet. But I guess the next one would be Tales to Astonish, Ant-Man's title.
No.
I said no too, actually. You might be surprised by that. You might not be.
I do not like anything they do with Ant-Man. I hinted at this earlier. It's not one I'd be picking up until the lineup change in the book.
I would have been picking this up at the start for a while. If I was jumping in and out, I probably would have jumped in and out a couple times already. I think at the point that Wasp was introduced, I would have had the tap out.
Yeah. I probably would have bought that issue.
I would have bought that issue, read that issue, and probably tapped out after it.
Yeah, I would have bought that issue because I'd be curious. I probably would have bought the first Ant-Man and that one just to try the characters. And neither one of them would have done anything to keep me reading it.
Yeah. I don't think, even with with the context I have now of Lycan Wasp, I don't think Wasp was good enough in that issue with all the uncomfortableness going on that I would have wanted to continue reading.
And I'm trying to not base on how much I like characters now.
Yeah, that's same. That's what I'm trying to stay away from too, because on a note of that, we have Incredible Hulk.
No, hell no, fuck no. That run was horrible. I would have read the first issue, and if I'm being 100% honest, I would have never given the rebooted Hulk a chance. But I think this gimmick kind of requires a little bit of the meta knowledge of if the stories are actually good, having read them or not.
Yeah.
Because realistically, when Hulk comes back, I wouldn't pick up the title because it's Hulk and Ant-Man, I believe, if I remember correctly. And then it becomes Hulk and Submariner. And I would have been so burned by that 6-issue run of Hulk that I would not touch it. But
Yeah, the only reason Hulk is in here is just because I wanted to cover the basis of it since we didn't do this segment before.
it is a good thing to have in there because the fact that I wouldn't be interested in pulling it is good content.
Yeah, and I really would like to say I would pull it, but realistically, I did enjoy that last issue, but realistically, I probably would have. Well, I would have. I want to say I would have dropped it after 2, but I would have dropped it after 3 because I would have liked the first 2 enough, and then I would have read the first issue and been like, "Fuck this." Probably.
I honestly, I don't think I would
no.
have given it a chance.
The
cover of that first issue wouldn't have drawn me. The story wasn't that good that even if I had read it just to see what this character was, I would have been out.
I think the general theme. I was expecting the general theme to be that I am more willing to try give things a chance, but then at the same time, you still have one more yes than me on the pull list, I think, so that doesn't really stick. I guess I think we've covered Hulk enough though, so let's go with the journey and the mystery.
Yes.
This is my shock one. I said no.
I knew this was where we were going to differ. Because you have been much harsher on the Thor stories than I have been.
At this point, and I know what comes. I've read ahead some now, and this answer's going to change probably next month, or maybe the month after. But right now, it's a no.
I've enjoyed a lot of the Thor stories enough that the bad ones wouldn't have ruined me, and this is also kind of grading on a curb. Because, yeah, they're not great, but very little is at this point. So given what options I had available, I'd be buying Thor.
That's fair enough. I in my eyes, this title's been pretty mediocre. Maybe I could see myself maybe picking up an issue if it had Loki on the cover. I could see that happening. Even though I've complained about some of Loki's usage.
I own the entire I can't believe it's not Lobo run.
Even though
mediocre doesn't necessarily scare me off a title.
Even though I've complained about Loki's usage some, he's definitely like the most interesting part so far. So
he's the big thing that would keep me buying it, honestly.
Yeah,
the issues without Loki are meh.
At this point, I would not be picking this title up.
But basically, every time Loki turns up, it's... I don't want to say good, but it's more enjoyable than a lot of the schlock we picked, Drew.
Yeah. From there, we go on to Strange Tales.
This was a yes, but with the caveat that I wouldn't be reading... I wouldn't be reading the Johnny Storm stories.
This is where we differ once again. I'm intrigued which one that I said yes to you must have said no to. I actually think I know the answer looking at it now. But which is gonna be interesting. So Strange Tales, I have no. Which might be another shock because I'm such a Doctor Strange mark at this point.
I can get not buying it for a 5-page story.
That's the thing, it's 5 pages. If I had heard and known about Doctor Strange and given it a shot when he debuted, I may have continued picking it up. But realistically, if I'm talking about Strange Tales as a whole, I would have dropped that shit after the second issue. So
I would not if we did this last month, I would not have been getting it. I'm entirely pulling it for Doctor Strange.
I would be too, but I for right now, I'm not going to commit to giving it a yes just for Doctor Strange, but that probably will change going forward at some point.
Yeah, I'm predicting I'll drop it during Doctor Strange's hiatus, then pick it back up when he comes back. Because I don't want to read Johnny Storm stories, but I love the Doctor Strange. The second one was a little underwhelming compared to the first, but it was by no means bad and wouldn't have put me off the issue.
And then we have Tales of Suspense, which is Iron Man's title, of course.
No.
Okay, so this is the one you said no to. Okay, I said yes.
I love Iron Man, but that's a modern perspective. At this point, he's had one good story.
I said yes here. I don't know. I think the character of Iron Man has still been written interestingly enough that I could see myself giving this one more of a chance than some of the others. I know there's been some terrible misogyny that's been taking place. Trying to overlook that, though.
It's not just the misogyny, like, for me. Even the stories that aren't offensive because of different societal norms and just generally kind of problematic writers, because that seems to be a trend throughout Robert Bernstein's writing. But even ignoring those, the Iron Man stories just haven't been good enough.
Yeah, I used the perfect word to describe Thor that fits perfectly for Iron Man. Mediocre.
Yeah, I feel about Iron Man the way you feel about Thor.
Yeah, that's essentially it.
Yeah, I'll be adding Iron Man in the next couple of months, basically as soon as he gets a supporting cast.
Yeah.
So I think actually literally next issue, or next episode.
Yeah, next month, yeah.
But I just can't justify it with the way he's being written right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like not to say there's nothing clouding from a modern perspective. I really tried to be fair with these. There's just something about Iron Man. Well, the title's been mediocre, I've still been finding some, like, it hasn't pissed me off or made me not want to read, like, a Human Torch or an Ant-Man. I'd like to believe I would have given this one a bit more of a shot than some of these other titles.
And about being tainted by modern perspective, I'll yank back the curtain a bit. Iron Man was on my list through most of my writing it, and it was only towards the end I'm like, wait, what am I doing? Every one of his stories have been shit. Why is he on the list? And I pulled him off.
That's pretty fair. Well, if I was being less fair, Thor would definitely be on my list. But because Thor's literally one of my guys, but I have not been enjoying Thor enough to have it on my list so far.
Yeah. So Thor and Iron Man are like the exact same opinion, just reversed.
Yeah. Because at least with Iron Man, there's some fun in how the character's written a bit more than I find within Thor. Thor's half depressing half the time, or just half, like, I don't know. Thor's not always the most interesting part of his own title, I guess. But
no, the strength for me is the villains right now.
Yeah, I don't like Dr. Don Blake too, so that's a big part. We have the big and obvious one that we're both gonna say yes to, Amazing Spider-Man. Obviously, it's on our poll list. Like, we knew the answer to that. So,
we've been consistently rating these the highest of any issues we've read.
It's the top title, whether Dan wants to admit it or not. It's the top title. It's the best written title, best drawn title, best quality.
I wouldn't say best drawn. Most creatively drawn in some of the angles and things they've done with the art, yes. But on technical proficiency, I think actually some of the bad titles are better drawn. I find, like, Don Heck
brings...
Yeah, I find his art generally more pleasing to the eye, but
I'll say of the big titles, the best art, then. That's going to be my caveat.
Fair. And like I said, Ditko definitely has the most creative stuff he tries to do. Like, his fights do stuff that no one else's fights do. Yeah.
Moving on now to Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos.
That's another yes.
Same here. So when I figured out that you said no to one of my yeses, I actually thought it was Sergeant Fury for a second, but then I looked again and there was Iron Man there, and I was like, it's probably Iron Man, but I am still worried it's Sergeant Fury. But it wasn't, so that's nice. Of course, Sergeant Fury is yes. It turns out I'm a mark for this title. Yeah. I love me some...
The first one was pretty mediocre, but the second one was a blast, and I'm hoping it continues that way.
It just gets better.
So this one, right now, it would be on my pull list, but it would have an asterisk by it in that I'm watching you, and if you get bad, you're getting cut.
Yeah, that one is, I could see that one would be on your chopping block, so.
Yeah, it's an I'm watching you.
I suspect you're probably going to stay with yes if you're
I think I'm going to keep it because I know what happens in issue 4. and I know that it's really good after that. But
Yeah.
that's using advanced knowledge that I wouldn't have had when I was making this
Yeah,
list.
exactly. But yeah, we both gave it a yes still. And last but not least, for our what we're talking about with our poll list, our hypothetical poll list, are we pulling X-Men?
Yes.
I am too. I'm pulling X-Men. It's only I know I kind of shit on it a little earlier, but I would be intrigued to see what's gonna come from this.
I liked that issue. I would have liked it more at the time,
Yes.
because the thing that hurt it in my modern reading is the fact that these characters have been around for 70 years, and I know who they are, so an entire issue of introducing them has a pretty big barrier of entry to me as a modern reader. But in the time, to get a team book and have, a whole issue telling me about their cool powers, I would have loved it, because that's the thing the Fantastic Four, when they started, didn't do right. They didn't teach me their powers, and then they had to, for like 6 or 7 issues, they had to keep doing these comedy in massive air quotes segments at the start of all the issues where they used their powers in completely inappropriate ways just to try to train the audience on what can they do.
Yeah, even when we come to situations where there's like months where we might have like there's a title that's just debuted, I know that I'm the type of reader that tends to give things a shot. So even if I didn't love X-Men, I mean I liked it. I gave it 3 stars. It was decent, and I would be intrigued enough to see where it's going. So I definitely would have it on my pull list at this point. We'll see if that stays. How long it stays, we'll see. But yeah.
Spoiler, it's not staying too long for me. I love modern X-Men. I don't love this run of X-Men until probably a year before it goes into reruns.
Fair enough.
And then it's pretty good, but before then there's like a couple of issues that are really good and give you hope for a bit. And then it's just blah.
Yeah. So there we go. We covered our favorite and least favorite comics of the month. Well, we still had Dan, and then you and I. We have our poll list now, and Bill is keeping track of these poll lists.
Yeah. So next time we do this, I'll just go over what we have on our poll list as a start, and then we could say what we're cutting out and we're adding.
Yeah. So it'll be much more quick going forward, and it's going to be a fun little addition to the podcast. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. We're gonna go into our outro now, but before I completely leave, I do have to promote last week's bonus episode, debuted for our monthly bonus episode. We had the Batman special, where we talked about our favorite version of a Batman adaptation in the movies. We talked about favorite Joker. We even made lists of the Batman in order from worst to best. It was a fun time, a good long chat, and I hope you check it out. We had some fun talking about Batman. If you enjoyed this one and are listening on YouTube, please leave a like, subscribe, comment, and even share if you'd like to. We are also available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. If you're on Spotify, make sure to go to that poll and let us know what your favorite entry that we covered was, or your favorite story that we covered was. Anyway, guys, see you all in the next one, and peace out.
Have a good one, everyone.